Joining us now, Don Reay, the Executive Director of the Texas Borders Sheriff's Coalition. Don, we very much appreciate your time today. Welcome to America's Forum.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So, Don, what are you folks seeing on the ground now in Texas?
What we're seeing is an increasing number of cities that are receiving these unattended families. And, of course, that has quite an impact on the local community. I've likened it to the relocation that took place after Katrina, where you have an influx of people that's going to affect your social services. It's going to affect your economic stability, your law enforcement. We don't know what the law enforcement impact is going to be, other than we have a lot of folks who were not here before. The basic difference between the Katrina and what is happening now is that the folks who are coming in now are illegal. They're undocumented. And they've been so accused of that by entering across our border at other than a port of entry and other than legal status.
Don,
so that's what we're facing.
Well, it's a huge problem. And of course, the feds in my home state of Arizona said, look, responsibility is federal here. And yet the realistic situation is this is occurring on the border of Texas. You're from the Texas Border Sheriffs Coalition or Association. Are local sheriffs, county sheriffs, finding their time sapped with what is happening here and their resources jeopardized as well?
Only in the preparation stage at this time. Because a lot of the folks we've not had the numbers that have gone into Arizona. And I've been following the Arizona situation as well. I happen to be a native Arizonan, and proudly so, and have worked in Arizona quite extensively, so I've been following that situation there as well. And we don't have the numbers. For example, in El Paso, there were about 270 came in over the weekend, but I understand they've all been dispersed now and got in this catch and release program where they're supposed to appear someplace else. Now, that's going to very probably create a law enforcement issue for where they were destined for, because I venture to say if past history is any indicator, that many won't report as ordered to.
Yeah, that whole notice thing is a situation, not as I wrote in my book 10 years ago, John, the so-called notice to appear becomes essentially the notice to disappear. So you've got that frustration going on there. Don, the other situation, I think it's important to drill down a little bit more. So Texas, for many, has become the entry point, but then the feds are taking these illegals, most of them kids, putting them on buses and chartered flights into Arizona. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding. Yes, sir.
Well, Don, I also want to ask you about some of the health concerns we're hearing about, things like chicken pox, MRSA, staph infections. Some of these folks who are coming across the border right now, is the responsibility to deal with the health side of this falling on the shoulders of some of the sheriffs and their deputies in these border counties in Texas?
Not directly on the sheriffs, but as sheriffs are part of the community, yes. Because a lot of social service agencies are stepping forward. But again, that's local taxpayer money that supports them. So it's affecting all of us. And from our sheriff's standpoint, we also serve as the office for the Texas Border Sheriffs. We also serve the Southwestern Border Sheriffs. So all sheriffs within 25 miles of the border with Mexico are members of our organization. And so we try to keep in contact with all of them. And I can tell you across the board, they are concerned about not only the law enforcement aspect, but the economic impact, the social impact, and of course the health issues that can be brought to the rest of the community. And when I read reports that say that, yes, we quarantined off an area, we put up a piece of evidence tape. Well, how does that stop germs from flowing?
Yeah, that's a good point. We also, for the folks at home, want to play a soundbite we have of a border control agent talking about the possible spread of contagious viruses here. Take a listen.
They're all contagious. So now we're transporting people to different parts of the state, different parts of the country, and some of these viruses are asymptomatic at this point.
Now, Don, even though, sheriff's deputies aren't necessarily medical professionals expected to deal with this, but they are coming into contact. Has there been any spread amongst any of the law enforcement agencies? Is it something that they're having to take additional precautions as they try to handle the influx of people here?
Well, the precautions they would be taking is, wearing gloves, trying not to have skin-to-skin contact, and that kind of thing. But still, you have airborne problems that exist, and there's really difficult to predict for that. You just have to be vigilant, and frankly, they just keep doing their job. They're public servants, and they're doing their best to serve. And it makes it very, very difficult and for them, because they're having to encounter these unknowns. And of course, as a humanitarian nation, we're going to take care of people. So it's really a paradox.
And I think you put it quite correctly, Don, when you talked about the paradox, because in a sense, we've heard talk, and perhaps on the ground there, you're seeing the border stations in Texas overwhelmed. We know what's going on in Arizona. We chronicled that earlier. And you made headlines, Don, with your comparison to the aftermath of Katrina and people uprooted and needing help on a humanitarian basis. But I'm curious more to amplify this, because you talk about Americans being compassionate people and that this is, quote, a humanitarian crisis, but not everybody crossing this border is a little child unattended, though as heart-rending as that is, we've seen reports that you have people who may be under 18 years of age, but may be affiliated with Central American gangs, that there are untoward sexual activities taking place among the older detainees in these different Border Patrol stations and other situations. So the whole humanitarian picture are we getting an accurate picture? Because obviously it was pretty cut and dried in Katrina. There were American citizens in need of help. Here you have non-Americans breaking our laws, getting help, and I'm just wondering if the national media, in your opinion, is giving an accurate portrayal of what you're facing in Texas and what folks are facing in Arizona.
No, because I don't think they're looking at the in-depth, and I think they have the tendency to follow more the policies that are coming out of Washington. I mean, the working Border Patrol agent who has a primary responsibility along the border, they want to do the job, but in many ways they're handcuffed. The guys tell us one-on-one, they're handcuffed from doing what they know they're supposed to do, and it comes down from policies on high. And I honestly think, and what we're hearing, is that people are seeing this open border as an opportunity to get here. Now's the time, because it's a free ride. And this has been done by policy that, in my opinion, is the executive branch imposing policy that circumvents the responsibility of the legislative branch. That takes away our balance of powers that our nation was created on. And that's a real concern to me personally.
And as you're talking, Don, we have up a story appearing on the web edition of the New York Post. The headline reading, "Feds looking for babysitters to help with illegal immigrant kids." So you get a report now that the feds want to hire babysitters. We've heard that our Attorney General wants to hire legal counsel for these illegals who happen to be minors. When you see that against the backdrop of understaffed and handcuffed Border Patrol agents, the frustration for the Texas sheriffs you represent must be overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and we've gone a step further today. The Attorney General of Texas, Greg Abbott, sent a letter yesterday to Department of Homeland Security, wherein he says, since Border Patrol is tied up doing processing, then give us $30 million and we'll patrol the border ourselves, in a partnership with the Texas Department of Public Safety, the sheriff's offices, and the police officers along the border. And of course, we don't know where that's going to go, and there's been some media response to that already. And that just broke late yesterday afternoon, and I know that the Director, Steve McCraw of the Department of Public Safety here in Texas, has already issued some press responses and as to, no, there isn't a specific plan right now. We have contingency plans in place, but to say a specific plan now, we don't know if we have the money. But our sheriffs, I mean, sometime back, we have agreed to work with them if we can be a part of the planning stage of operations in the event that something like this were to occur. You mentioned the gangs, and I'd like to touch that if I may. The gangs are transnational criminal organizations. They are wreaking havoc. They are controlling people who get on and off freight trains in Mexico, which is one of the more popular ways of coming north from Central America. Picture after picture have been shown of these people, and then you have sex slavery that comes out of that. You have people who are, frankly, being implanted into gangs here in the United States, and we don't know to what degree that is, because when you encounter these people, they don't have it labeled on their forehead.
Don,
it's only going to be a long-term thing.
Just about a minute to go. You mentioned the comparison here with Katrina, and that situation started to get better after the National Guard was called in. I know Texas likes to do things on their own, but would the National Guard help out the situation?
Oh, Texas has an extremely strong National Guard. They have been extremely supportive of law enforcement over the years and what they are allowed to do. They've been very instrumental in national disasters and hurricanes here in the state, and we are blessed with an extremely strong, here we call them a combined of all the guards, the Texas military forces, and they are constantly serving the state and in partnership with law enforcement.
So you wouldn't be averse to seeing.
We're in good shape that way.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Don Reay, the Executive Director of the Texas Border Sheriff's Coalition, we thank you very much for your time, and we'll be checking in with you again soon for an update as this story continues to be front and center, at least here on Newsmax. Thanks so much, Don.
Thank you so much for including our sheriffs.
You bet. Well, we recall the National Guard in Arizona, then Governor Napolitano putting the Guard on Arizona's border.
Yep.
It will be interesting if Governor Perry follows suit in Texas. Lots more to come straight ahead on America's Forum.